Hello, everyone. It's Richard Lewis here, and welcome to another episode of the Richard Lewis Show. And Sam and me are back from, doing whatever the fuck we've been doing. I've been obviously working on the major for CS:GO. Being
I've been
on
drinking
TV.
at the major.
Yeah,
Watching it on TV.
Yeah, breaking records. You've just been breaking
Chairs.
chairs.
Eating records. Breaking the longest yeah boy ever record.
Definitely haven't done that. So that's been it, really. So been a busy time, and as a result, the podcast went on fucking hiatus. And man, I feel so bummed out about it, dude, because we missed so much.
Yeah, good time to do it right before the inauguration.
Yeah, I mean, shit, it was just too much was going on. But honestly, we're going to fucking just dial it back anyway. We're going to try and capture some of the insanity in the build up to, President Trump and beyond, because it was just marches, protests, lies, disinformation, just everything that was made typical during the election cycle, just condensed into an incredibly short space of time. Like, the stakes were raised in stupidity. The level of deceit was unprecedented. And when you consider all of the mainstream media lies and inaccuracies and biases, to be able to say that and it be true is it's not even terrifying anymore. I mean, I honestly think we've just hit a stage where it's like no one has any standards anymore. Like, no one gives a fuck. There's just no one cares. They just want to fucking, they're just content to embarrass themselves with a slew of lies, and they'll say anything and do anything to get their way. That's all that matters now. It's just, what lie can you reasonably tell? And it turns out you can tell some pretty big whoppers because everyone's ready to hear them. People want to hear them. People want to belong. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, I'm going to have a big swig of this 64-ounce beer I've got. I know you keep laughing at this. What else do you want me to
growler.
do?
Maybe put it in a cup,
it's a growler. Well, you don't drink out of a growler?
I mean, not since I made moonshine, motherfucker. What do you mean?
Mate, the fact that they're called growlers is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong. Like, did America just not care about the development of English slang? Like, did they just not give a fuck? Like, yeah, that thing you drink out of, we'll call it a growler. But sir, a growler is also a euphemism for a woman's vagina. Shut up and pour it out. I'm having a drink out of a big growler, big old growler.
Also purchased it in Ponce, in Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on Ponce. So, to prove I'm not a Ponce, I'm gonna drink this growler, mate.
Down in one day.
Yeah, brilliant. And the podcast's over. Podcast's over. I couldn't do it, mate. There's not enough room. I'll just have yours, mate.
I'll just have yours. Both.
No. Anyway.
No.
Let's get into the sponsor, because we had a book sponsor last time around. I'm sure a lot of you will remember it, and I know a lot of you will remember it because a lot of you actually went out and supported the sponsor and went out and bought the book. And obviously that was the selection of Nita Sarkeesian, and that was by Andrew Bouchard, and it was a steamy roller coaster of feminist sex and jets, autistic jets. It just had it all, really. So yeah, it was a pretty good book, and we appreciate that you went out there and you supported the sponsor. We already spent the money on growlers.
Yeah, on growlers mostly.
On growlers mostly.
And food.
But the thing is, you guys went out and you did, what helped support the show, and as a result, he was super happy with it. And guess what? He wants to re-up and
do a sequel.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's not just a sequel in terms of sponsorship. He's actually written a sequel to The Seduction of Anita Sarkeesian.
Yeah, boy.
Now, this guy, he must pump out a lot of books, Sam. How many's he written? Do you know?
I think 3. Either 3 or 4. I'm pretty sure it's 3.
Sorry, bit gassy.
Well, 3 that he's currently advertising anyway. I don't know if he might have written a shitload more.
Yeah, I think he has. I'm pretty sure he has.
Probably has, yeah.
Now, this is an 18 plus book. And you probably guessed that from the title. But it's just a short one. It's a short sequel to The Seduction of Anita Sarkeesian.
You have to tell him the title, actually.
I'm gonna.
Okay,
I'm building up to it, mate.
all right.
The title of the sequel is called Mr. Stop it. Mr. Free Speech Stud bangs Miss Anita Sarkeesian.
He's already seduced her now, mate. Now it's straight banging, dog.
That's generally how it works. Have you ever seduced anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what comes after the seduction?
The banging, of course.
There you go, mate. That's how it works. You know, if you drew a floor chart of how to do seduction, you know, it's small talk, seduction, banging. That's pretty much, and then leave and pretend it never happened. But that's something else entirely.
Crying.
Yeah, maybe sometimes spewing into the bin by the side of her bed and hoping she doesn't notice. But it's been done. So it's called Mr. Free Speech Stud Bangs Miss Anita Sarkeesian. And obviously, I was like, fuck, dude, this is the perfect book for us to advertise on the show. Because, I mean, first of all, I'm all about free speech, as you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? And if I do say so myself, bit of a fucking stud. Known for it. A gay icon. You know, irresistible to women. Provided lined in that. And I've had a bath.
Rat.
True, beard all the time. And I like to bang.
Fair dues.
And I've talked a lot about Anita Sarkeesian. So the title just leapt off the page. Just add it all, right? So I'm going to read you the blurb for Mr. Free Speech Stud Bangs Miss Anita Sarkeesian, which is the sponsor of this podcast. And here it is. 18 plus adults only. This short sequel, just 27 pages, but I'm sure they're explosive pages, to The Seduction of Anita Sarkeesian gets even raunchier than the book it follows. This erotic short story describes the sexual relationship between Andrew and Anita. Our heroes have both vanilla and kinky sex. They also use their maverick politics skills to overthrow the forces of evil. Along the way, they leak a sex tape of a certain Republican presidential candidate.
Who's that? Who knows?
Who that
We need
is?
to find out.
Never do that.
No.
And they enjoy a menage type experience with a certain famous YouTuber.
No, if you've ever read a cliffhanger, mate.
Yeah, but who is the YouTuber? I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Like, do we know? Do me and you know?
Yeah, we got the book.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't read it.
I haven't read it all, but yeah, I'm sure we can find out.
I mean, I've read some choice bits, like.
No. Let them find out themselves, mate. If they want to know, we'll have to buy it, won't they?
All right. It's like when you're a kid and you do a book report.
Yeah.
You say, I don't want to ruin the end. It's like, it's the fucking teacher. You know, they know the end.
Do you want to ruin Peter Pan for you, love?
Yeah. I do it, fucking Peter Pan. You are a fucking lost boy, that's why.
Growler.
Oh. Frosty. Right, anyway. So, I'll read you an extract. If I actually, do you want to play the audio again?
I don't know if there's anything good in it. Mostly too, it talks about the Young Turks and like how they overthrow them. So if you want to listen to his modern, war, you can listen to that if you want.
Yeah, just put that on.
Right, give me a sec.
I'm in. I'll just shut up. Let's do it.
Hang on. Wait.
I'm waiting. Okay.
scene. There we go. Right then.
Great job.
Right, and now I'm going to play it. So this is the audio sample.
Sip.
9. Anita. I hope this doesn't sound like a digression, but you know how in the seduction of Anita Sarkeesian, we mentioned unionizing the Young Turks network? As if unionizing the Young Turks network didn't thrill me enough, I befriended Hannah Cranston, and I influenced her to change the network even more. Hannah overthrew the Young Turks regime, so she kicked everyone out, including, but not limited to, J.R., Cenk, Anna, and Steve. She only kept John Idarola around. I inspired her to change the Young Turks' orientation from progressive politics to maverick politics. Fortunately, Hannah now invites Andrew and me on the network whenever we have the time and inclination to accept.
So I'm going to read you a bit as well. I'm going to read you just the last few lines, okay? And you get, just because I think it's got a nice little poetic kind of flow to it, you know?
Okay.
How do I describe my relationship with my maverick babe, former feminist Anita Sarkeesian? Righteous romance, lovely love, freaking fun, bodacious banging. Maybe we will create a sequel to this work. We will see if inspiration strikes. Otherwise, Anita wants to bang her in both vanilla and kinky ways. Or wants me to bang her, I should say. In both vanilla and kinky ways. So I must sign off as Mr. Free Speech Stud Bangs, Miss Anita Sarkeesian. So what I like about that is, by reading that paragraph, I haven't given away anything.
Exactly. Just
see.
The taste of it.
Yeah, exactly. Just the taste. That's what it's all
Just
about.
the mint at the end of the restaurant, mint. Just a little palate cleanser. Yeah. There you go, mate. You're ready.
Don't you, mate? You love fucking after it, mint. So to get this book, do you go to rlewisreports.com/stud?
That's right. That's the correct link.
What happens if you go there? What does
Then
it
it
do?
takes you to the Amazon page where you can buy the Audible version, you can get the Kindle version or the paperback version.
I haven't even looked at the reviews, you know.
Oh, there's a couple of bangers in there.
Let's have a look. So the link works, I think.
Good.
Right. So it's had 7 customer reviews, and they're fluctuating between 5 stars. In fact, they're exclusively 5 stars or 1 stars.
More 5 stars, though.
Right.
Got him.
So yeah, true, definitely. So let's just have a look at some of these reviews.
Mate.
Wait, no, let's do them one at a time, Sam. Still one at a time. I like this review by Rudolph Jackson. It gives me hope for the book, you know? This is the best book I have ever read. I came all over the desk multiple times and gave myself a sore throat from shouting with orgasmic pleasure. So not bad, right?
Cheers, Rudolph, mate.
Yeah, nice one, Rudolph. Then the one underneath it, not quite as promising. It's just for the love of God. 1 star. For the love of God, get over it. Why do you give so much of a shit about this woman? Leave her alone. This is just disgusting. The next one
detractors, mate. Everyone's got the
by Heather Shaver. Ugh. The errors make my brain hurt. Fiance had me read the writing as a joke, and I keep hoping the writing gets better, but they hurt my writer brain. I don't think she really is a writer. I mean, that sentence.
My writer brain.
that, you know, glass houses and all that, Miss Shaver.
Mrs. William Shaver.
5 stars from Amazon customer.
Cheers, Drive.
Definitely not Andrew. There are lots of hot blonde babes.
How does he know?
Even blonde, like Anita Sarkeesian's not even blonde, or
It must be in there somewhere, mate.
H. Ray, 1 star. Brain. Exactly as expected.
Why is that 1 star then? You knew what you were buying.
Mad, innit? Mad. Which is interesting, because if we just skip Beth's review, You can see someone gave it 5 stars and said exactly what you're expecting it to be.
There we go.
So, Then Beth said, her review was just called Another hit of Bouchard's. There's not a dull moment in this book. It will knock your socks off. It's full of sex, passion, love, and laughter. I couldn't put it down.
That's only 27 pages. How long do you have it up?
I couldn't put it down because I have really bad arthritis in my hand.
Because I'm a T-Rex.
So there you go. That's Mr. Free Speech Stud. We'll remind you about it at the end of the show. But now we must get you to cast your mind back, way, way back, to something more ridiculous than Mr. Free Speech Stud bangs Miss Anita Sarkeesian. And that is, at the time we left the podcast, and really sort of the political landscape, I mean, it was all about Russian hacking, right? Was the big news story, I think, at the point we leapt off. And everyone was talking about it, The Russians hacked the election. And the premise to this, Sam, I think, was that the Russian government had wanted Trump to win, and so had hacked the DNC, even though WikiLeaks have expressly said the source for the DNC hack isn't Russian. But they hacked the DNC and hacked fuck knows what else and used it to spread disinformation during the election cycle to guarantee Trump, who was a surrogate for Putin, would win the election. That's pretty much a summary of what was going on. Now, Sam, you're an intelligent guy occasionally. How are you feeling about that, mate?
How am I feeling about fucking? That's a broad question. Break it down for me a little bit. How am I feeling about the accusation?
Yeah, do you feel it's accurate?
Well, considering it has about the exact same amount of evidence that every other bullshit claim has come out so far, I'm going to put that in the no pile, along with all the other shit there's no evidence for.
All right, well, there was a lot of hysteria about it, And this was pointed out no more astutely than right at the end of December, when Glenn Greenwald, who writes over, his website, The Intercept. Interesting, actually. I recently got into a discussion with Glenn Greenwald. First time we've really engaged each other. And I've talked about him, I know it's weird. Like, Glenn Greenwald is the guy who had, a spine like no other journalist, with the whole Snowden thing. And I think probably about 50% of the work he does is really good stand-up journalism, the like of which you won't find anywhere else, life-changing, society-changing, world-changing journalism. And then the other 50% just seems to be some sort of crack pottery, sure. I don't want to compare. I don't want to call him a leftist Alex Jones, but you can understand where I might. Mm-hmm. You can understand why that comparison might sound vaguely true. Alex Jones is batting, his ratios are very, very different. It might be something like 10% of what he says is even vaguely worth paying attention to. The other 90% are the frog people and buy the supplement. You know what I mean?
The GMOs. Yeah. And the other 10% is him being Bill Hicks, isn't it, mate?
Yeah. I used to be Bill Hicks.
Look at his teeth.
Which is why I've said DMT is the portal to the devil, whereas Mr. Hicks, he used to love psychedelics. But anyway,
does look like
I like Glenn Greenwald. I think on the whole he's a bit of a weirdo. But what he did in revealing the extent of the NSA, being the conduit to get Snowden's story out there, is one of the most important pieces of journalism that's happened in my lifetime. Simple as that. So I'll always respect him for that. I don't like to, even if I think he's a fucking, lunatic or whatever. But he does write some good stuff. And we had this exchange, and it was about that Godfrey Elfwick, that Trolloc.
The parody.
And he was basically calling him out for not correcting a tweet. You know, and he's a satirical account, and he'd based his satire on something that was inaccurate, and was saying no correction has been issued. I'm like, Glenn, I don't think a satirical account on Twitter is held up to the same sort of standards as a journalist. And it turns out the reason he was going after him is because, if you remember, back when Godfrey Elthwick claimed responsibility for that awful, it started with Sam Harris, you know, and then I knew I was
right-wing politics poison.
Yeah, exactly, right. He retweeted it, and because it drew a lot of attention to it, I think he retweeted it multiple times. Because Glenn Greenwald, for some reason, has a huge problem with Sam Harris. Now, what I've noticed is when I criticize Sam Harris, the few Sam Harris fans that listen to my shit as well tend to get upset. But Sam Harris proved he doesn't operate from a point of complete logic this election cycle with his irrational claims about Trump. And also his embracing this idea of lesser of two evils, which, of course, you shouldn't really be doing. And you certainly shouldn't invoke Hitchens, who always said that was a very dangerous road to go down. So, you know, it's not like I have a lot of love, particularly for Sam Harris right now. I kind of feel like he's a little bit of a fraud based on that. But certainly Glenn Greenwald absolutely despises him, and he despises new atheism, as he calls it, right? So he was going after Godfrey Elthwick, like, really transparently as well. Like, he was clearly so embarrassed at his previous mistake. So I thought that was like a little interesting thing that happened. But anyway, I'll back to December. And anyway, he published this: Russia hysteria infects the Washington Post again. False story about hacking the U.S. electric grid. And what had happened here was, because the media, which of course, as we know, the big media outlets, the mainstream media outlets in America, are looking to facilitate the Democratic Party at any given turn and to help them write the version of events that they say is true. So the press right now are so repulsed by a Republican government led by Trump and the prospect of what that might mean, that they will happily, they didn't even question anything that was going on with the DNC. They largely ignored the WikiLeaks, the protester email leaks. They largely ignored all of that. They weren't interested. What they were interested in is, how can we make this very strange sounding version of what happened during the election? How can we help the DNC make it look like they were the victims in the election? They didn't lose it by themselves. Russia stole it from them. So the Washington Post tripped over itself to do this. And there was a story, a pretty small one in the grand scheme of things, and it was basically about the U.S. electricity grid. And there was a electricity utility in Vermont. And the headline that they ran with was that it was done by, that Russian hackers had got into the US electricity grid as a result of this hacking in Vermont. And it turns out it was gibberish. It didn't happen. And here's what's great about this. Glenn, brother, if for any reason you happen to be watching this while I'm drinking a growler and you're wondering what the fuck you're doing with your life, me and you, we ain't so different at times, because look what he said. Go down to where it says, what's the problem? And he goes, what's the problem with this version? Didn't happen. He says didn't happen.
He knows.
He knows. He knows about the power of the didn't happen. So look. So this was about Burlington Electric, and you see there was no penetration of the U.S. electricity grid. I'll just read it here. He explains it pretty well. The truth was undramatic and banal. Burlington Electric, after receiving a Homeland Security notice sent to all U.S. utility companies about the malware code found in the DNC system, searched all its computers and found the code in a single laptop that was not connected to the electricity grid. The Post didn't even bother to contact the electric company before running its wildly sensationalistic claims. So Burlington Electric, the company themselves, had to issue its own statement to the local Burlington Free Press, debunking the Post's central claim. We detected the malware in a single Burlington Electric department laptop not connected to our organization's grid systems. So the key scary claim of the Post story that Russian hackers had penetrated the US electric grid was false. All the alarmist tough guy statements issued by political officials who believed the Post's claim were based on fiction. Right? And again, there were multiple of them. You can see in the article, it got repeated by ABC News. Brent Staples, our Russian friend Putin, attacked the US power grid. Now deleted. He's at the New York Times. Didn't happen. Right? Even worse, Greenwald continues, there is zero evidence. I mean, fucking zero, right? I mean, that's, absolute zero. There is zero evidence that Russian hackers were even responsible for the implanting of the malware code on the single laptop. The malware was Russian made. That is where the claim comes from. That's like saying if I drive a BMW into a crowd, it was a German attack. This is ridiculous. So they said the malware was Russian made, and then they just extrapolated that to mean it was a Russian attack. But of course, it doesn't mean that only Russians can use the software. So they changed the headline because they had to, because it was inaccurate. And even allies, as they like to call themselves, said, yo, you're out of fucking control, like Washington Post. This is ridiculous. So they changed it to Russian operation hacked a Vermont utility showing risk to U.S. electrical grid security, officials say. But that isn't what happened. And
officials ain't said that, though.
They didn't. Didn't happen. Again, it didn't happen. This is the Washington fucking Post. This isn't a blog, right? This isn't like a fucking blog of a teenage fucking, Reddit user who wants to keep his friends and immediate circle informed. This is a national newspaper. This is one of the most respected publications in the Western world. Right? And you can see immediately other journalists again had to call them out. Del Cameron pointed out it wasn't an infiltration of the power grid. Russian malware can be used by anyone. And he repeats C1 and 2. And Eric Geller, formerly of the Daily Dot, huge leftist, by the way. I mean, embarrassingly so. Worked with him. Now at Politico. And certainly a huge, never Trumper, like very much against the Trump regime. You only need to look at his Twitter feed. But you can see, pretty amazing how badly the Post appears to have mangled this one. You didn't even call the Vermont utility regulator before publishing. So all of this stuff is completely false. And then Greenwald recommends some actual coverage. And just to point it out, and I won't go on because I got a feeling with all this catching up we need to do, probably need to be a little bit more expedient than the pace I'm working at right now. But you can see here, he links at the bottom and he says, if you want to know more about this discussion of Russian hacking, and this doesn't just apply to this specific story, this applies to the DNC stuff at the whole. You can see here, cybersecurity expert Jeffrey Carr said there is a very difficult you've got a difficult task attributing responsibility to any hack, because the whole point is, if you're good enough to hack the DNC, you're obviously smart enough to cover your tracks, right? And think about even just what we might know in our world, DDoS attacks, right? No one's doing it, with a fucking machine in their house, are they? You know what I mean? Use a third-party service, you use a VPN, you hide your tracks, And you can see as well that the report that was issued by the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, which was used to justify actual sanctions against Russia, Jeffrey Card denounced it and said it was woefully inadequate and evidence-free. That is a cybersecurity expert. There was an article in Rolling Stone, yes, a compromised publication by a long fucking way, publication that thinks it's okay to publish unsubstantiated rape claims, and I hope they get sued into the ground. And Jan Wenner, you have fallen goddamn far from the glory days of what that magazine used to be about. But there's a guy called Matt Taibbi. Now, Matt Taibbi is a guy who has lived for more than a decade and worked out in Russia, as a journalist. He writes about like Russian culture and Russian stuff that's going on. And he's used his sources and produced an article called Something About This Russia Story Stinks. The Atlantic published an article by David A. Graham and just said that it was a fairly rational assessment of the debate, according to Greenwald, and that he disagreed with some of the versions presented by Obama's cabinet. A lot of people disagreed with this stuff. And certainly that story was grotesquely inaccurate. Now, what was also interesting was, if we fast forward to the start of January, the White House had claimed that a young Russian hacker called Elisa Shevchenko had been involved in hacking the U.S. election. She was contacted by The Guardian. Again, these are anti-Trump publications. These are left-wing publications. They gave her a platform, and she said that this was a lie on the grounds that, quote, I never work with douchebags. So she wouldn't work with the American government. Gotta say, by the way, this sounds like my kind of woman.
Yeah, right. She was in, remember the 4chan documentary? No, the Pirate Bay documentary, sorry, not 4chan. The Pirate Bay documentary. She was in that as well, I remember.
But listen to what she does. She's into hacking, meditation, and training in Thai kickboxing. Andrew Bouchard should write a fucking book about this chick.
The Seduction of Elisa Shevchenko.
I might do it. I might write that book. But anyway, you can see in this report, she's like, there's just no evidence to say I did any of it. I've been named because I'm known to these, forces. And she said that the U.S. authorities were either guilty of a technically incompetent misinterpretation of the facts or had been fooled by a counterfeit in order to frame her. And she said that a young female hacker and a helpless company are a perfect pick for that goal. I don't try to hide. I travel a lot. And I am a friendly and communicative person. And most importantly, I don't have big money, power, or connections behind me to shrug off the blame. But she says, as far as she's concerned, it could be anyone. And that trying to apportion blame is a fool's errand. So she denied it, and she was named by the White House. More worrying, flimsy evidence. Now, this is where it got really interesting for me, the Russian hacking thing. Because The Guardian, again, ran, when the US's story was starting to come a little bit unstuck, the official version. And again, I do want to say, if people think that the US government are incapable of lying, please go read the 9/11 report. Please read the official version of events according to the 9/11 Commission. Because I've got that book. It's outside. It's next to you, actually, Sam. If you look over on that bookshelf, it's on there. I've got the full commission. You can get up and show it to people if you want, whatever. But here's the reality. I'm not some mad conspiracy theorist that thinks cleaners snuck into the building and put dynamite in the fucking walls, and Bush was sat in the fucking room going, hey, and pushed a button, right? I'm not mentally ill. But certainly there was discrepancies in terms of the evidence that was collated to justify the war with Iraq. A passport does not survive a plane wreckage like that. It just simply doesn't. Let alone do you find it on the ground, completely untouched, barely burnt at all, barely singed, a few meters away from where the impact occurred. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So it's got to be said that, if you think the US government wouldn't tell lies to suit its own interests, or any world government for that matter, then unfortunately you're living in it's not even a paradise. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know, but it's just idiocy. It's just an idiocracy. It's just stupid. It's not how these intelligence agencies operate. So anyway, while this hysteria and the reports about the Russian hacking were getting picked apart domestically, The Guardian gave a platform, to this report, which was the UK. Obviously, America is, we're allies, we're famous allies, we're best friends, two nations separated by a common language is the old adage. And they came out and spoke to the New York Times, I think was where the original report and it said two people familiar with the conclusions of the Russian hacking report that was issued by the Department of Homeland Security. They said that the UK intelligence agency, British intelligence, were among the first to raise the alarm in autumn 2015 that Moscow had hacked the DNC. And they said that it was the compromise of email among senior Democrats, and there was voice intercepts and other things. And it all led back to Moscow. Now, I thought that one of the central arguments that was being made as to why this hack had occurred, it was to destabilize the DNC and to get Trump in as president, right? I mean, that was one of the things that was alleged across the board. Slight problem with that story, though, because the British intelligence agency that went on the record said they announced this in autumn of 2015, that Moscow had hacked the computer servers. Well, Donald Trump had announced his intent, only his intent, to be candidate for president on June 16, 2015. So keep in mind, at the start, when Trump had announced that he was going to run, everybody was like, lol.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I mean, no
apprentice guy.
Yeah, nobody took him seriously. They thought it was an ego stroke for a serial narcissist, and nobody thought he was going to win. What did Russia know that the entire political community in America didn't? The Republican Party didn't. The DNC didn't. Joe Public didn't. What did Russia? How could Russia have this level of insight and know that actually we're going to hack the DNC because we can get Trump in here? And when we start getting into the BuzzFeed article about Trump basically being Dr. Piss too, which is how I know we're living in a simulation now, sir. This is why I just don't give up.
Convinced you, man.
No, it's not even Anders. Fuck Anders. Anders is mentally ill. I love him. He's out of his mind, mate. He's out of his mind. All he ever talks about these days is fucking, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and how we're all living in a hologram. I mean, I think Anders is gone. Like, he's mad thing is he's not even done psychedelic drugs. I don't even know. He's always telling me that one day he will. Fuck it. He can't have mushrooms.
Let's do it on the show. How about that?
That'd be awesome. He can't have mushrooms, so he already believes it. Doesn't he?
Yeah, imagine what happened if he doesn't know. What if it just makes him normal?
Yeah, that'd be the thing. He's got.
It.
Oh wait, my actions have consequences. Fuck no. Right. Anyway, Love Anders. All of that's a bit.
Makes you bad, makes you better again, mate.
All that's a bit for Anders' benefit because he watches the show. So people will be going, "Oh my god, he hates Anders." No, it's a bit. I love Anders. He's family. But you know, I'm starting to be convinced we live in a fucking simulation because we do that fucking Dr. Piss show.
Yeah.
And we're buckled and laughing about it. And then what is it? A few weeks later, BuzzFeed released an article that says Trump likes to be pissed on.
Well, they never did find out who leaked it to him, did they, mate?
We'll get into that. Finish this Russian hacking. Let's put that to fucking bed. Because it's, again, nonsense. So, naturally, okay, it's been held up, right? I mean, keep in mind, right? We've got the hackers, people who admit that they're hackers, but denying involvement in this, even though there's like fuck all you could do, really. You couldn't like extradite them or do anything. They're denying it. You've got proof that the Washington Post hysterically decided to say that Russia had hacked the US electric grid. Didn't happen.
Man, didn't happen. Double didn't happen.
Got British intelligence coming out and saying that Russia did do it, but back in June, and therefore any link to Trump is certainly irrelevant. WikiLeaks said, no, still wrong. Wasn't Russia, right? But everyone's saying Russia, Russia, Russia. You've got cyber intelligence experts and security experts saying there is the evidentiary standard in the official report is a joke. You've got people on the ground in Russia, Western journalists, saying this story reeks. But all the mainstream media are telling you if you say you're a little bit skeptical about Russia's involvement, you're mentally ill. Well, Putin got pissed off. And on the, I believe it's the website for Foreign Affairs or something, it's mid.ru Foreign Policy News is the source. You can see here, this was again at the end of December. And they said the outgoing US administration has not given up on its hope of dealing one last blow to relations with Russia, which it has already destroyed. And this is the foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova. Right? I mean, just when you thought Russia tweeting a Pepe was as bad as it got. Using obviously inspired leaks in the US media, it is trying to threaten us again with expansion of anti-Russian sanctions, diplomatic measures, and even subversion of our computer systems. Moreover, this final New Year's greeting from Barack Obama's team, which is already preparing to leave the White House, is being cynically presented as a response to some cyber attacks from Moscow. Frankly speaking, we are tired of lies about Russian hackers that continue to be spread in the United States from the very top. The Obama administration launched this misinformation half a year ago in a bid to play up to the required nominee at the November presidential election, and, having failed to achieve the desired effect, has been trying to justify its failure by taking it out with a vengeance on Russian-US relations. However, the truth about the White House orchestrated provocation is bound to surface sooner or later. In fact, this is already happening. At the start of December 8th, U.S. media quoted Georgia's Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, as saying the local authorities tracked down the origin of a hacker attack on his voter registration database after the election. The attack was traced to an IP address of the Department of Homeland Security in America. This was followed by an attempt to quickly cover up this information by a flood of new anti-Russian accusations that did not contain a single piece of evidence. We can only add that if Washington takes new hostile steps, it will receive an answer. This applies to any actions against Russian diplomatic missions in the United States, which, if you remember, Sam, they were going to shut them down, send them home, all that nonsense, which will immediately backfire at US diplomats in Russia. The Obama administration probably does not care at all about the future of bilateral relations, but history will hardly forgive it for this après nous le déluge attitude. I can't speak French. Right. Now, again, same thing I said about the US government and how it might like to tell porkies to serve its interests definitely applies to Russia too. Okay? I'm not, like some mad pro-Russian. But here's what I do know. again, in the lack of evidence, I will choose to apply critical thinking and make a decision based on the evidence that's presented in front of me. I've seen none. I've seen plenty to the contrary. I've seen plenty that point to this being an attempt to lay the blame at any other source except maybe internal to the DNC. So I'll also add, maybe this makes me crazy, but, I love America, right? I love living here. I think it's a great country. I love the people. I think America's better off with good Russian relations, yeah? And sure, Russian relations would be difficult if Russia was hacking everything that they do. But, new government, clean fucking slate. Let's move forward. And again, I don't think Russia did any of these cyber attacks. I think this is nonsense. I think Russia might have benefited from them. I think if any information was circulating in the hacking community or was out there, Russia definitely got a piece of it. Shit, I read the Podesta leaks, so fucking the Russian intelligence agencies definitely did. But again, this isn't some mad catastrophic thing. Keep in mind, Hillary Clinton was saying in the election campaign that she considered a hack an act of war. What the fuck?
She does love a war, to be fair, mate.
Which is crazy, because also in the same election cycle, on the same campaign trail, she said that she regretted supporting the war in Iraq. The one time, actually, that it would have mattered, if she could have voiced some opposition. Anyway, so that's what Putin's response was to the hacking. He said, didn't happen, it was bullshit. Now, again, make of that what you will. I'm just saying I don't necessarily believe it's true. I think it was done there because I think, let's think about the chronology. Let's think about what was going on. Trump and Putin were having a love-in. Trump was obviously, running for office still, got elected. It was all done. I think there was still some vague hope that his tenure, his position would be made untenable. He could be impeached. I remember reading multiple papers talking about, it's not over yet. Trump could be impeached. I remember Michael Moore doing interviews. He's not in office until he's sworn in. Remember that? So I don't know what they were thinking, but certainly they wanted to make it look like Trump and Putin had sort of conspired against the DNC. There's no evidence for that. Very weird. So I'm more inclined to reject it, unfortunately. And if that means I'm a fucking right-wing conspiracy theorist, if I've disappeared down the InfoWars hole, whatever it might be, that's, I guess, where I am on that particular issue. Till I see some evidence. I mean, don't get me wrong, okay? In the interests of balance, I'll get this. He was shown this, and again, this is the same Washington Post that I printed that bullshit story, so it's quite fitting. But here you go. In the end, and this is obviously by January on the Russian hacking issue, he did come out and do this conference in which he talked about fake news. And he did say, as far as hacking, I think it was Russia. Hacking's bad and it shouldn't be done. But look at the things that were hacked. Look at what was learned from that hacking. So, and that was his entire speech on it. I think it was Russia. Now, he's not necessarily saying it's the Russian government. He's saying, as far as he was concerned, the hack may have emanated in Russia. Fair enough. Whatever. Right? So I'll put that in there. But again, the evidence, flimsy. The idea it was some sort of coordinated plan, nonsensical. The idea Trump was involved or, had tried to cover it up, ridiculous. So that was Russian hacking. But it didn't just stay there. Again, another attempt after Trump was elected to destabilize him and make him look ridiculous. This is the Dr. Piss dossier. Now, for a while, people have been saying that there is all this stuff floating around about Donald Trump. So BuzzFeed I mean, BuzzFeed.
Good stuff.
Okay. BuzzFeed decided this would be where they would make history. This is their Watergate moment. This is the fucking publication of a report that proves everything to be true. All the bad stuff that had been said, all true, all proven true. Okay? Look at the opening line. A dossier making explosive but unverified allegations. What are you printing them for? You know? What are you printing them for? You know, you, Sam, right? You could take this Ken Bensinger guy, the BuzzFeed news reporter, or Mark Schoofs, the BuzzFeed news investigations editor, or Miriam Elder, BuzzFeed News World editor. You could come to me and say those three like to engage in a scatological themed menage a trois where they basically form their own human centipede and eat each other's shit. You could make that explosive allegation. If I went out and published it on my fucking, in my, first of all, if I worked for a credible newspaper, it wouldn't get past an editor, which is why nobody but BuzzFeed had published this. But BuzzFeed was so desperate to get this out there, this report, that they didn't care. What they knew was I'll tell you exactly how the discussion went in the BuzzFeed offices, okay? No one takes us seriously anyway. We're always a joke. We don't make any money off any of our political reporting. It's always 10 reasons why cats will enhance your life, or 22 cute photos of fucking pufferfish, whatever.
Rats.
Oh, yeah, 11 crazy bicycle stunts for quadriplegics, whatever it is, right? They run those types of articles, yeah? Sometimes they do the whole, the true secret about Donald Trump's IQ will have you shocked, yeah? That sort of thing, and you click on it. It's called clickbait. It's what BuzzFeed specializes in. It's the only reason they're still around. So they said to themselves, hey, does anyone take us seriously? Nah. Do we even take ourselves seriously? Nah. Let's just publish it, and then all the other leftist newspapers can say we published it because we went first, and it goes out into the news cycle. And we'll look like a shower of cunts. We'll look like morons who aren't fit to hold the title journalist, which is what we are, but it will go into the news cycle and it will discredit our president, which is all we really care about, because we are ideologically compromised and incapable of impartiality. That was their exact plan. They probably didn't put it as eloquently as that because, they work for BuzzFeed. So this dossier that made explosive but unverified allegations included, principally among them, that Donald Trump was compromised by the Russian government because they had sex tapes, they had footage of him engaging in water sports, being pissed on, engaging in golden showers. And just listen, it's so pathetic that would even be accounted on. These are the same publications that said, if you think President Obama wasn't born in the United States, you're mentally ill. What? But it's completely plausible that Donald Trump, a known germaphobe, by the way, runs to Russia to get pissed on, and the Russian government have got it on film. That's how they managed to, that they've got power and dominion over him because of this. And again, keep in mind, who the fuck knew Donald Trump?
Yeah, why would they be recording him anyway?
Is Putin like that fucking bird out of Minority Report? Trump president, what is this? Did he, Is he the fucking Mekon? What level of psychic power does this guy have? That he could see something no one else in America could. To get Trump compromised, to set up a sting, to have him filmed being pissed on, right? So they could manipulate him when he became president. What is this? This is like fan fiction. Well, let me just prove to you first off that people were going, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, obviously, he's rich, he's decadent, he's depraved. Now, yeah, a lot of rich people, liberals mainly, by the way, if we're going on batting averages. These days, I should add. Not always. Because I grew up in the era of Tory sleaze, right? That's conservative sleaze. We used to have a joke when we were kids. How do you get 4 Tories on a bar stool? You turn it upside down.
Good. Classic.
Deviants, right? That's what they used to say about them. And it was true. You didn't, mate, when I was like 10, 11, it didn't feel like you could go a week without some fucking politician found in a cupboard, dead, wanking with an orange in his mouth or something. You know what I mean? Right? But now it's liberals, man. They've just gone the same way. They've just gone the same way. So here we go. Donald Trump is on the record a germaphobe. He doesn't like, there's no way he would be pissed upon, because in his 1997 book, The Art of the Comeback, this is how far back it goes. So this is a hell of a goof. It's a hell of a plan. Yeah, I better write this in 1997 so I can get pissed on in 2000 and something. Can't wait to get pissed on. Fucking hell, it's going to be worth the wait. One of the curses of American society is the simple act of shaking hands. And the more successful and famous one becomes, the worse this terrible custom seems to get. I happen to be a clean hands freak. I feel much better after I thoroughly wash my hands, which I do as much as possible. Sounds like this cunt's got fucking OCD, mate. So I'm supposed to believe a man who is unnerved by shaking hands, lies down on a bed, and has a prostitute spread a labia and squirt piss all over him. Is that what's going on?
I buy it.
Is that reality now? Am I believing that? Does that sound fucking vaguely plausible to anyone with a brain? Which is, again, this is how you know how fucked up BuzzFeed is. And the way they sold it, mate, the way they tried to make it sound like they were doing something that was like high journalism. Right? Look at this. BuzzFeed is publishing the full document so that Americans can make up their own minds about allegations about the president-elect that have circulated at the highest levels of the U.S. government. Again, I could start a rumor now on this show, right? Donald, I don't know. Where do you want to go with it, Sam? You're better at this than me. Start a rumor a president probably shouldn't be doing, right?
Barack Obama would sometimes, just for a goof, throw midgets. He'd hire a midget and he'd just launch him down the Oval Office just for the kicks.
Thing is, I don't think anyone would care, honestly. I don't think the press would care, mate.
Yeah, probably be a goof like, oh, look at Obama give these midgets jobs. Incredible.
Midget jobs. Hashtag midget jobs. Right.
Midgets' rights.
You know what I mean, though? Like, if we started that rumor,
allegedly, let's make it safe.
Yeah, definitely, right? If we started that rumor, mate, and it got spread around, and people started repeating it, it would make its way into an intelligence report somewhere, and probably get briefed to the president if they thought it was likely to come out and go public. That doesn't mean it's fucking true. You understand? And that was the other thing. Because it was reported that that both Obama and Trump had been briefed about this dossier circulating and these allegations circulating, that was enough for it to be somehow important. But should never have come out. Because it's just, I mean, shit. There was, Bill Clinton has a love child, multiple love children, whatever it is, right? You get briefed on it. This is going to come out. It's potentially damaging. Just a heads up. That's what the intelligence agency does. But again, oh, we did it for the American people. No, you did it for clicks, same as you do everything else. You fucking pieces of shit.
Did it for that $1.5 a month.
You published something that was completely unfucking verified. And look how disgusting it gets. Look how transparent they are in their bias. Scroll down. If you have tips related to this story, write to us at trumpstories@buzzfeed.com. They got an entire inbox, mate, just to make things up about Trump. Like, could you be more ideologically compromised? No, if you have tips related to this story, write to us at intelligenceleak@buzzfeed.com or politics@buzzfeed.com. Trump stories. That's all you need to know right there. That nobody's even thought to themselves, like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't make it that obvious. We just want Trump stories, So the full document's still on there, by the way. Like, it's still there. All 35 fucking pages of it. Let me tell you about that report. Let me just give you a few little additional facts that I think are important to keep in mind. I think the first thing is what WikiLeaks said. If you go down a WikiLeaks tweet, they said the 35-page PDF published by BuzzFeed on Trump is not an intelligence report. The style, the facts, the way they're presented, and the dates show absolutely no credibility. WikiLeaks said, as far as they were concerned, this report did not match up to any other intelligence report they'd handled. Now, think about what WikiLeaks does. Yeah, I think they might be the authority on handling government documents. Maybe just a little bit, So they said, this looks completely unofficial. So it wasn't even an intelligence report, because again, I am more inclined to believe WikiLeaks on this particular topic. And it just blows my mind. Because it's, the allegation literally was that Trump was being blackmailed by Putin or elements of Putin's government. Now, I forgot to add this to the document, but I'll get this. Did you see the interview Putin did about this was great. I mean, seriously, like, how can you not respect Putin for what he said here? I'll see if I've got the full thing. Because where's the video? Why aren't you showing the video? I've got the report there. Oh, here we go. Right, 1 minute 35. So this is the Business Insider showing it. Now I'm hoping they show the full thing and they haven't cut out the funny part. But go on, it's only short. So just play this. I'll watch it while you're playing it.
Вот эти вбросы, это очевидная фальшивка.
To give me the 3, 2, 1.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Вот эти вбросы, это очевидная фальшивка. Трамп, когда приезжал в Москву, даже не помню, когда он приезжал, несколько лет назад, он ведь не был никаким политическим деятелем. Мы даже не знали о его политических амбициях. Ну, просто бизнесмен, один из богатых людей Америки. Что кто-то думает, что у нас спецслужбы гоняются за каждым американским миллиардером, что ли? Да, конечно, нет. Это просто полный бред. Трамп приехал и тут же побежал встречаться с московскими проститутками. Это человек, во-первых, взрослый уже, да? А во-вторых, человек, который не всю жизнь, но многие годы занимался организацией конкурсов красоты, общался с самыми красивыми женщинами мира. Вы знаете, я с трудом могу такое представить, что он побежал в отель встречаться с нашими девушками с пониженной социальной ответственностью. Хотя они, безусловно, и они у меня самые лучшие в мире, безусловно. Но сомневаюсь, что Трамп клюнул на это. А вот люди, которые заказывают фальшивки подобного рода, которые сейчас распространяются против избранного президента США, фабрикуют их и используют в политической борьбе, они хуже, чем проститутки. У них нет никаких вообще моральных ограничений.
Right, so there you go. So I want to take a moment, first of all, just say, like, everything he says there, so logical, so sensible, that it would be hard to argue against it, right? Yeah, like the idea that years ago, when Trump was just a businessman, no political aspirations, he's being watched and monitored by Russian intelligence agencies, that also a man who's happily married with children decides out of the fucking blue while in Russia to meet with prostitutes and get pissed on, right? A known germaphobe. And equally as well, a man who, you know, you just grab him by the pussy, according to his locker room talk. He doesn't need to use prostitutes. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't take what he said, grab him by the pussy, to be true. You can just grab him by the pussy. That's what he's saying. He's not saying I have grabbed someone by the pussy. He's saying when you are rich, you can just do whatever and they'll tolerate it. You can just grab him by the pussy. It's still a disgraceful thing to say, but, you know, meh, whatever. People do talk like that privately. I'm sorry. Don't want to burst any bubbles. You'll hear people just talk like that all the fucking time. And actually, that's an assumption by a lot of people. You know, not my cup of tea, but whatever. It's just the reality. People fucking do say that shit. So if you're taking him at face value on that, why does he need to pay for it? What, he's like a mad sexual deviant, is he? That's why there's never been any stories about him. He's never been caught with a prostitute. Who's the first person you were blackmailed? Billionaire? Yep, absolutely. Never happened. Didn't happen. So I'm supposed to believe out of the fucking blue all of this shit's true. So, super logical argument put out by Putin. You can't dispute it if you just operate from a point of critical thinking and logic. And then I just want to pay extra special attention to the fact that he boasted about Russia having the best prostitutes in the world.
I know, right?
At an international press conference to address political destabilization in the US. What a fucking beast.
Now, he didn't get any prostitutes, but he should have, because they are mint.
Didn't get any prostitutes from Russia, but he fucking missed the tree. I'll tell you. And he just rubbed his hands like, what a fucking beast. Like, look, renewed respect for Putin. You know?
Oh, there you go, mate. You said it. The people are coming. I can hear the screams now. Yeah!
Listen, what? Like, I can't like world leaders? You know,
apparently
look, I'm sure Putin does a lot of shit. I know he's done a lot of shit I don't like. I don't like his stance on gay people, right? Like, think it's fucking barbaric and antiquated and everything else. But, you know, dude, you're never going to agree with anyone 100% of the time. And even if I think he's 95% a piece of shit, he handled this like a fucking baller. So, you know, that's how it is. That's the way it goes. Now, I'll just kind of highlight as well, you know, there was a lot, this dossier being published at all is ridiculous. There is literally no grounds to publish this in its current form. And then you look into it even more, and it turns out, well, holy fucking moly, it might have been a troll. The whole thing about the pissing and everything might have been a troll. Might have been 4chan again.
I love that shit, man. We were talking earlier about, like, we've got some other shit we're going to bring up later, but how sick is it? Like, this is what they dedicate their lives to. Imagine if they were, like, looking for terrorists or something.
It's true. It's fucking true. You know, if, 4chan, they know how to fucking find people, right? Like, you know, and they know how to get stuff out there. Now, look, there's a Pastebin summary, which is perfect. This was provided to Mike Cernovich, a colleague of mine. And you can see here, but basically it was on January the 10th, BuzzFeed posted a story under those guys we just talked about, Ken Pensinger, Mark Schoofs, and Miriam Elder, and it was titled, "These Reports Allege Trump Has Deep Ties to Russia." They posted a link to the PDF document, which was debunked by WikiLeaks, widely rejected as being accurate. And it alleged, among other things, that Russia had been cultivating Trump for over 5 years. Trump had been in constant contact with the Kremlin for information on his opponents. And perhaps most inflammatory, that there are many recorded instances of blackmail of Trump in sexual misconduct. A prominent claim is that Trump rented the presidential suite of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow, which he knew the Obamas had slept in, and he hired a number of prostitutes to piss on him in that bed. Right? Now, Rick Wilson had been hinting on Twitter for a while, saying that the report gave a new meaning to WikiLeaks. And again, if you go in there, you can bring that Twitter up if you want to. I think it's still there. I don't think he's recanted. This guy's fucking shameless. WikiLeaks takes on a whole new meaning tonight, doesn't it? He says 11th of January. And the report was that everyone was fighting so hard against the election of Trump that somehow everyone knew about this report. And that's why everybody didn't want him in. That was why. It was nothing to do with all that other shit. All that other shit they were alleging, you know, how he was a racist, a white supremacist. What Rick Wilson is saying here is they made all that shit up because they knew Russia had compromised him because they'd had footage of him being pissed on. So, according to this write-up, it's all fake. And not only is it fake, it's a prank perpetuated by 4chan, a prank on Rick Wilson himself. And if you go back to October 26th, there was a post saying, "My face when I managed to convince Control the Record and certain journalists on Twitter there'll be an October surprise on Trump this Friday," along with a picture of a smug face with a hash name. Now, we'll bring up the archive. Remember all of this talk? There was talk at the time about this. It was circulating. That Rick Wilson guy, if I remember rightly, had even said publicly on Twitter, he said something along the lines of, "You know the thing? Be bold and publish it." Here you go. I've got it. I archived it at the time. This is way back. Let me find it. Hang on. Oh, maybe I haven't archived it. Sorry, that's just a tweet I just showed you. Whatever, anyway. He'd been talking about it, right? Already, telling people, you know, do something with it, do something with it. So, you go here. November 1st. Person without a picture, but it is assumed it's the same anon. They took what I told Rick Wilson and added a Russian spy angle to it. They still believe it. Guys, they're truly desperate. There's no remaining Trump scandal that's credible. So you bring up this archive, right? There it is. In front of you, black and white, right? Or pink and black on 4chan, right? On January the 10th, moments after the story broke and began to gain traction on social media, a person with the same smug grin face and the same hash title for the picture stated, "I didn't think they'd take it so far," right? So, again, same guy. It's been deleted now. This story has taken something on a life of its own, it says here. Going through Rick Wilson's Twitter, you can find many different stories from the time that he had shown the story to a wide number of anti-Trump news sources, trying to find a news organization that would actually publish it. During that time period, he referred to it often as the thing, and often playing coy with followers on the content with the story, with anybody that was also a never Trump. And that was the key thing. Hashtag never Trump. Rick Wilson used to do that all the time. Unconfirmed sources has people as high up as John McCain given the story to FBI Director James Comey to attempt to verify the story. Given that Rick Wilson runs in establishment circles, it's not an impossible scenario that long-serving senators are falling for what amounts to a 4chan troll Trump supporter creating an ironic October surprise out of whole cloth to punk a GOP pundit who derogatorily referred to them as single men who masturbate to anime. Accurate, though.
Absolutely fucking wrecked.
Now, again, look, the evidence that proves that this was a 4chan troll is flimsy, all right? We can see that one user on 4chan, who did later emerge, actually, and there was a Twitter account that got deleted. So again, but here's the thing: those posts are talking about planting information, planting an article, planting something among the intelligence community that isn't real. And a lot of people seem to think, that this happened, that maybe this was a 4chan troll because it was based on erotic fan fiction, which had been published on 4chan. And lots of people cited that they'd read instances of this. So there's more evidence of it being a 4chan troll than there is of Donald Trump actually being peed on. Right? There's more. There is that's inarguable. Now, if you don't think it can happen, I'll give you some proof, because I'm into that. Right? If you look up who Richard Tomlinson was, Richard Tomlinson was a diplomatic. He was a British intelligence agent who had been given a diplomatic role in Moscow, right? And he got dismissed from MI6. And you can see here that if you just look, this guy Tomlinson, he just made shit up. He just made it up. He ended up writing books about it and stuff. So it definitely can happen. You get intelligence agents who are full of shit. History's got multiple examples of people who just make this stuff up. Or they use dodgy sources, or they just say whatever they think is going to get them to keep their job, So I think we can safely rule out the likelihood that Donald Trump likes to get peed on. Now, here's what I'm going to do, Sam. I'm going to throw a curveball into the works.
Right.
Because naturally, we should go on to the fucking inauguration and everything else. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to.
Right.
In the interest of keeping the podcast not too long, so we can get back on an even keel, I'm going to save the inauguration stuff until the next podcast. And all the marches and all the violence and all the bullshit. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get into some more general stuff. Let's go down to the BBC and announcing a fake news team. Because fake news is big. That's what it's all about.
Growler.
Nearly there. Gonna wreck that growler. BBC is going to set up a team called Permanent Reality Check, which is to target false news stories or facts being shared on social media. This is basically a control the record for the British Broadcasting Corporation. For those that don't know, correct the record. Control the record. It's actually right, isn't it? Thinking of control left. Correct the Record, which was obviously a group that Hillary Clinton, a super PAC Hillary Clinton campaign funded, that went on the internet and corrected anyone that said anything bad about Hillary Clinton. They astroturfed Reddit. They downvoted people. They harassed Twitter accounts. They did whatever it took to remove anything critical of Hillary Clinton from the internet. So this is going to be Permanent Reality Check, PRC.
Good acronym as well, considering it stands for People's Republic of China. Another thing that likes to alter a lot of news.
I've heard that, Sam. I have heard that. So, look, here it is. The BBC is to assemble a team to fact-check and debunk deliberately misleading and false stories masquerading as real news. Now, hang on. Let me. After that first sentence, I must say, I'm not against fake news. I mean, you know that, right? Like, I value the truth. I mean, I like to think that is evident from the podcast, evident from what I do. Every time we've been duped by a hoax on this show, we've corrected it in the next episode. Every time something's been flimsy or inaccurate, we have told listeners to, or potentially inaccurate, I should say, we've told listeners to take it with a pinch of salt. Every time there hasn't been hard evidence, I've made it clear I am applying critical thinking to arrive at a conclusion I believe best reflects reality. I think even in this show that's meant to be a bit of fun, we try and be as responsible as we can, because I take that seriously. And I definitely think vetting news, vetting what's real from what isn't, is very important for any news outlet. But here's the thing. We know that isn't how this works. If a outlet like Breitbart publishes a true story, which it has done multiple times, that the leftist publications won't touch, they don't want to engage with the story. They just want to say, well, it's Breitbart, it's fake news, don't listen to them. Everything you can't win. And this is the issue. Am I saying everything Breitbart publishes is inarguably true and accurate? Of course not. No publication achieves that, unfortunately. The standard is so low, I'd be amazed if any publication achieves a level of, I don't know, let's say 90% accuracy. Be amazed. So what I dislike is the way this fake news thing works. That if it comes, and we saw this with that report about the German church on Breitbart. The German police, corroborated with the Western media to say that Breitbart had got the report wrong. And they hadn't. They just embellished it. Now, an embellishment, that's a very different thing entirely. But they'd said, that refugee protesters had fired fireworks at Germany's oldest church, and it had set on fire. This had been disputed and was said it was absolute lies. And actually what had happened was fireworks had been fired and had landed on the netting and set fire, which wasn't permanent. Doesn't really seem like it's too far from the truth, does it? And I made the point at the time, why does no one hold the mainstream media up to the same level of scrutiny? Why is The Guardian suddenly writing about, oh my God, Breitbart got something wrong? Why are the German police, people who admitted to lying about the ethnicity of rapists and sex offenders at New Year's Eve because the government told them to, why are they suddenly being held up as credible sources? Nonsense. And the reason for that, of course, is that Breitbart's expanding into Germany, and people are terrified of this because they think Breitbart are Nazis. They're not. They have a ridiculous amount of Jewish employees for a Nazi organization. Used to have an editor of large who was a Jew. One of the most famous names to come out of Breitbart was Ben Shapiro. So ridiculous, just ridiculous allegations. But anyway, that's the issue I have with it. That once a publication gets labeled as fake news, you discount everything they say. And if that actually does happen, then what happens if I have a story, I want to blow the whistle on something, no one else will publish it but Breitbart or InfoWars or somebody else? You got to judge each story on its merits. You got to look at the evidence and the facts, Anyway, amid growing concern among politicians and news organizations about the impact of false information online, News Chief James Harding told staff on Thursday that the BBC would be weighing in on the battle over lies, distortions, and exaggerations. The plans will see the corporation's reality check series become permanent, backed by a dedicated team targeting false stories or facts being shared widely on social media. The BBC can't edit the internet, thank fuck, but we won't stand aside either, Harding said. We will fact check the most popular outliers on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media. Well, why on earth would you do that? Why on earth would you put resources into that? Keep in mind, the BBC is publicly funded. That's British citizens' money. And you don't have a choice. You don't get to opt out. If you have a television or a computer with access to the internet in your house, you have to pay the BBC money. So you would have to be incredibly detached to avoid paying them money. And understand the reason for this is the government has said the broadcasting apparatus tax, effectively, doesn't go to us. It goes to the British Broadcasting Corporation, so we can fund independent journalism. Seems to me a bit of a fucking oxymoron. A government tax that is levied is not going at the government and instead goes to you so you can be independent because the people fund it. But of course, the government can knock on the door to the BBC, as they have done many times in the past 15, 20 years, and say, we'll pull that right away. We'll pull that privilege away unless you start towing the line. They're not independent. They've been ideologically compromised in the most clear and obvious of ways for some time. And the only way they could truly be funded by the people would be if they said you must subscribe to the BBC and pay for it. Then you will have the people that want to fund independent reporting. Problem with that is you can't pay fat cunts like Jonathan Ross $5 million a year. You can't pay Graham Norton $9 million a year or whatever the fuck it is. You can't overpay these fucking people with flimsy talents, these sycophants, these hacks. You can't pay them that kind of money. So instead, you do what the government says, and you take the money, and you pay the fucking stars of the network the big bucks. And that's what you do, and you publish your lies. But now you're going to use public money to vet Facebook, Instagram, and social media, right? Why? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I off the fucking chain here? Is this Growler
again? Is this the Growler?
Yeah, is this the Growler speaking? I'm asking, seriously. Does that not seem fucking odd to you?
Yeah. Seems like sort of fucking overarching sort of, we will dictate everything you hear, everything that does not adhere to the narrative will be altered.
It's mad. In fact, shit, I'll bring this up at this point before we start wrecking the BBC even more. You see the reports about 1984 sales increasing?
No.
Okay, so 1984, right? Classic book. But the sales have gone up, right? This was reported recently. Let me just find it. 1984 sales, Trump. That should do it. Here you go. CNBC. Just a week ago. So that you can use this. It was reported in every fucking mainstream media outlet, right? Because it's so important. Now, as somebody who's read 1984, I've not read it for a while, so I might be a little bit flimsy on some of the minutiae, but certainly read it a bunch of times when I was young. I think it's a fucking masterpiece. For obvious reasons, and a hugely influential book on how we should think about society today, which is why it's constantly referenced. 1984 sales soar after Trump claims alternative facts. This was after that unfortunate quote by Kellyanne Conway, the most stupid thing she's done, actually, since being appointed to the Trump campaign, using the term alternative facts. And people are using this. They are saying 1984 sales are going up because people are afraid of the government. People don't trust the government. The main protagonist, the protagonist in fucking 1984, he worked in editing the news to make it look like things that had happened didn't happen, and things that were happening now had always been that way. So it didn't look like things were getting worse. Didn't look like anyone was losing a war. Didn't look like rations were going down. In fact, rations were actually going up because they went back and they edited out what rations used to be. There was newspeak. It's not about it. The reason it's going up isn't about fucking government, is it? It's about the press. How can you lack this much self-awareness? How can you lack this much self-awareness? You are lying to the populace on a wide fucking scale. You are lying to them daily. You're lying about the president-elect getting pissed on. You're lying about Russians hacking the power grid. You're covering up important stories they deserve to know. You're denouncing anything that comes from a non-mainstream media outlet as fake news. You are retconning history. This is happening on a fucking daily basis. Do you think maybe 1984 resonates now? Not because of big brash Donald Trump, who wouldn't know how to be diplomatic if you fucking tortured him for 64 fucking years. You know, he doesn't have that level of nuance and subtlety, right? He doesn't have it. Do you think he's the guy that 1984's got nothing to do with fucking Trump. He just says what he wants. It doesn't matter if you disagree. It doesn't matter if history's wrong. It doesn't matter if the facts don't match up. I'm going to say it anyway. He's not retconning anything. He's not changing anything. But of course, they fucking forget. And let's not forget, in 2013, 1984 sales spiked again in the NSA revelations. A government that spies on its populace, where there's cameras everywhere. It listens to you on the phone, laughs at nudes that you send your girlfriend in their spare time. All the revelations Snowden brought out. 1984 sales boosted after that too. It was about deception. It's not about the brashness of governance and alternative fact. You're the arbiters of truth, and you're letting everybody down. That's why the sales are gone up. So back to wrecking the BBC, because that probably that bit there was no comedy there, and it pains me. It fucking does pain me, Sam. It really does, man. It hurts me that this is what the press are coming. I was raised wanting to be a journalist, to tell the truth. I was raised being told the BBC you could trust them. I didn't understand what Tony Benn meant when he said, we don't need the KGB, we have the BBC. I honestly thought, that independent journalism was achievable. But it isn't. And it's not. And that's not what's happening here. So, right. Let me find the fake news thing. So, the BBC, they're going to set up a team to decide what's going on with fake news, right? Slight problem. How much fake news do you think the BBC has peddled or engaged in or has been guilty of recently?
Am I going by number of pieces or what percentage?
I mean, not a percentage. I mean, just do you think it happens often? Because everyone holds the BBC up to this incredible standard, right? Like I talk to Americans all the time, and they tell me, wow, I wish we had something like the BBC. They say that to me, and I have to tell them quite despondently, nah. It's the same as anything else. It's a letdown. It's depressingly full of shit. So here you go. Here's one story. Keep in mind, they're assembling a team to combat fake news. What could be faker than orchestrating a resignation of a shadow minister for live TV? This was 7th of January, 2016, a little over a year ago. The BBC and the team behind Daily Politics, a show that I've often watched. It's a good show. It's like a Politics Digest. They stick it on BBC Two. And it gives, interviews with politicians. All the politicians go in it. They coordinated to take Stephen Doty, and they basically said he was thinking about resigning anyway. Producers from the team said, do you want to resign on the show? And he said, yeah, all right, then fuck it. Let's resign on the show. I'll do it. And then they knew what was going to happen. And he resigned on air and they all acted shocked. And to the viewers, it looked like he had just spontaneously resigned. And that was certainly the vibe that the BBC gave on air and in its subsequent coverage. They never mentioned that they'd coordinated it to happen specifically on air. That is a textbook manufactured story. That is fake news. It doesn't end there. Like, they're wrong all the fucking time, by the way. I mean, The Telegraph. Again, 2016. This was a journalistic ombudsman, the broadcasting standards that we have in the UK. And there was a report in The Independent as well. So, again, leftist outlet. Statistics being used erroneously to mislead guests. And you can see here, they let Emma Thompson, the actress, come on the show and made inaccurate statements about climate change. She was, I mean, look, again, climate change is real, okay? But it happened, is happening, right? But she came and gave false numbers to make it look like it was worse than what it was. Now, this is very dangerous, Sam. This is really fucking dangerous, because when you make inaccurate statements about climate change and it isn't right and they can be debunked, people then go, well, if they're lying about that, they're lying about everything. They're definitely lying about everything to do with climate change. All the climate change skeptics are skeptics because they don't trust the leftist media because of shit like this. So it's really dangerous. It's so harmful to the pro-science movement. And I believe in a healthy debate. I don't believe in scientific consensus. I think scientific consensus is retarded. I think the idea of that, I think the idea of, like, you know, the scientific consensus way back when the technology wasn't there to prove one way or the other, you know, that the fucking sun revolved around the earth and we were the center of the universe. That was the scientific consensus. And then people got the technology and started to disprove it and were burned for being heretics or laughed at, ridiculed. So I believe in debate, discussion, and we should definitely be having that about climate change as well, by the way. I don't think necessarily 100% everything we're saying now is completely accurate. I think we don't know. I think we don't know enough, I should say. But I definitely think man-made climate change is a thing, and we should get on top of it. I'd like to have a healthy debate, though. I'd like to hear these people who debunk it and find out why, and I'd like to hear why the people on the side who don't debunk it have a better argument. We can't do that in the current environment. And the reason everybody is so fucking entrenched in their positions is that if you're a climate change skeptic, not denier, just a skeptic, you are ridiculed and called a fucking moron and pelted with eggs and told you have no place in modern science, regardless of your credentials. And on the other end, every time someone like Emma Thompson's trotted out and is caught fucking lying, they just go, well, that's it, you're lying about everything. The barriers go down. They don't want to hear anything a leftist source says. This isn't good for the planet. This isn't good for the future of fucking mankind. We've got to be able to come together and talk about this, right? You can't just call each side a fucking idiot or a liar. So the BBC Trust found that they'd allowed Emma Thompson to lie unchallenged in their reports on the BBC. That's fake fucking news. She got it completely wrong. The exact quote was, if they, referring to oil companies, take out of the earth all the oil they can take out, you look at the science, our temperature will rise 4 degrees Celsius by 2030, and that's not sustainable. Well, that's wrong. That isn't what's going to happen. So, fake news again. No problem, right? Again, the BBC, they're going to tell you what is news and what isn't. And if you go over to just look at their corrections and clarifications page, it's pretty busy. It's worryingly busy, Sam. Right. We're just at the start of February. January 2017 has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entries of corrections and clarifications. That's 6 corrections in a month. Now, yes, some of these are tiny. But some of these are like, what the fuck? How did this slip by? Look at this one. 29th of January 2017. It's a few days ago at News at 10 on BBC One. In a report on the Holocaust, we gave the impression that Polish train drivers had willingly collaborated with Nazi Germany. With no evidence. This was not our intention, and we fully accept that the drivers were not among those who collaborated, but were in fact conscripted back into work by force after the German occupation. Now again, obviously the war's a long time ago, but imagine being, if you just so happen to be a Polish train driver, during the Holocaust, and you happen to be alive now, and you happen to be living in Britain, not mad far-fetched, unlikely, but not mad far-fetched, and you're just chilling on the news. And that's what they're saying about you. You collaborated with the Nazis.
Well, more realistically, what if your father was a Polish train driver?
Right.
That's definitely plausible.
How do you get that wrong? How do you not think, as the report goes out, actually, them Polish train drivers, we don't really know the motivations or what happened. So we should probably assume under a totalitarian and fascist regime that they were maybe, just maybe, coerced, forced into doing these things. Now, actually, let's just say they willingly did it. That's the level the BBC's operating at. It's unreal. There's a bunch on here. People should just read through it. I couldn't believe some of them. The SNP, by the way, they came out and fucking said, as far as they were concerned, the BBC had just told nothing but fucking lies. In fact, I'll give you the link to this. This was the SNP, the Scottish Nationalist Party. Now, what you need to remember is, much like Brexit, when Scotland was getting independent, there was a lot of fucking pushback from the media. They didn't want it. They didn't want Scotland to go independent. They wanted a unified Britain for obvious reasons. Financial, right? And I wanted Scotland to have independence. I'm a fucking Celt like you, right? Like, sure, we're a fucking principality. The Welsh Assembly is a bit of a joke, right? But like, if at the end of the day, if that's what the people want, let them have it, mate. The days of fucking Great Britain are over. We got to realize that. And I think, if I remember rightly, I can't remember if this is the quote they used about Brexit, but it might have been about the Scottish Nationalist Party. Should probably check. It's a great quote. Somebody said this is Little England winning over Great Britain. It's a great quote. Let me just check. I got to check to make sure. Yeah, definitely about Brexit, unfortunately. But see, I checked. Note to all journalists out there.
Better than BuzzFeed already, man.
The high standard. But anyway, so the Scottish Nationalist Party said the BBC told more half-truths and lies than the Nazis. And the former First Minister talked about Nick Robinson, right? So this is Alex Salmond, we all know, if you're from Britain, talking about Nick Robinson, who also I think we all know. He said he should be ashamed and embarrassed about his coverage. And then Robinson said, Scottish nationalists treat journalists the same way Putin treats the media in Russia. Definitely don't.
I know what. Grow up, mate.
Just grow the fuck up. That's the BBC. They're going to tell you what's real and what isn't. Come on, what fucking world are we living in? Again, read that fucking corrections page. It'll blow your mind. Do you remember that women write better code thing? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Go back to that page. This is a while ago. It says here, a reader complained that the headline of this article was misleading, that the study on which it was based was so flawed as not to merit reporting, and that the terms of the report were not duly impartial in relation to the question of the benefits or otherwise of workforce diversity in particular fields of employment. Whether the study should have been reported was a matter of legitimate editorial discretion, and in the ECU's view, the article did not deal with matters which were controversial in the sense which would require a balance of views. However, there were no grounds for believing that the women among the cohorts selected by the study were representative of women in general, and thus there is no basis for generalizing about women's relative ability. To that extent, the BBC's headline was inaccurate. Do you know what I mean? This is the shit they admit to. They want to talk about fake news. Blows my fucking mind, dude.
Have a growler, mate. Have a calm down. Have some growler.
Right. We'll end on some fun ones because we're coming up to that 2-hour mark. Let's tell you what, right? Let's just quickly go over to this NPR report because I think this is the least funny of the things that I picked out from this time period, right? Now, HIV, right? We're getting on top of AIDS, yeah, we're cracking it, mate. We're fucking cracking AIDS, like serious. It's we're making really good inroads. I read a lot about promising studies of different medicine types that certainly reduce the spread. Some of it, partial immunization. I think in I think 10 years, I don't think AIDS is an issue anymore. Honestly, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
As somebody that grew up in the 80s and had to listen to that John Hurt, by the way, rest in peace, great fucking actor who just died a few days ago. That John Hurt advert, have you ever seen the advert?
I think
for
so.
AIDS, right? Let me just get it for you, right? Like, I remember the slogan, AIDS, don't die of ignorance.
Yeah, I've got it.
Right, yeah, just play this. Right, when they used to show this on telly as a kid, I didn't even know what AIDS was. I didn't know how you got it, but I was fucking terrified. Just have a watch.
Hey, do you want to watch it at the same time again or what?
Yeah, let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Right, okay. You want it?
Yeah.
Right, 3, 2, 1, go.
There is now a danger that has become a threat to us all. It is a deadly disease and there is no known cure. The virus can be passed during sexual intercourse with an infected person. Anyone can get it, man or woman. So far, it's been confined to small groups, but it's spreading. So protect yourself. And read this leaflet when it arrives. If you ignore AIDS, it could be the death of you. So don't die of ignorance.
Jeez. He's carved a tombstone.
How fucking bad is that? How bad is that? That advert?
It is incurable.
Yeah, that was on telly.
Remember,
I was a kid.
Wrap it up.
They used to show that like between fucking cartoons. Nah, not literally, but you know what I mean. Maybe they did. Fake news. You know what I mean, though. Right. So fucking as I said, rest in peace, John Hurt, man, legend. But like, holy fucking shit! AIDS. It was like the boogeyman. Like for my generation, it was terrifying. And I said, fucking grow up. How'd you get it? You have sex? Not doing that, then. Never doing that. Probably why I became a gamer. It was convenient, wasn't it? A marriage of convenience. But unbelievable. And the idea that to see the spread of it, to see so many fantastically talented and wonderful human beings down the years die of it, and die young and die in really awful circumstances, to get to a stage where it can be diagnosed, to get to a stage where it can be then subsequently medicated for, and you can lead a happy life, Magic Johnson style. And now to get to the end, to see that arc of human history, it is fucking awesome. To remember being that little kid terrified of that advert to this, we're on the cusp. Like, unless I keep drinking growlers, I'll probably see the end of AIDS, right? So let's not politicize it. Can we all agree that just AIDS is bad? and we should target AIDS and get rid of AIDS. So I was reading this thing on the NPR because, like I say, I read about this. I like to read about science and medication and pharmacology and advances in science. In my spare time, I like to try and keep the mind active, and it can't all be about esports or gaming or whatever the fuck, or Trump getting pissed on. So look, African American women are more likely to be infected with HIV than other women. Many don't know about it. So public health officials and advocates are trying to get the word out about PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, a daily medication that helps prevent HIV infection. So you're like, okay, well, you're going after the high-risk group. And you can see here, out of all of the women that are diagnosed with HIV in the US, 62% are African American, 18% are white, and Latinos are 14%. So you're like, wow, this is pretty heavy, right? But if you just scroll up a few paragraphs, you can see here, they're talking about it, and it goes, in the US, the first priority was to get this drug out to men who have sex with men, because they account for 83% of new HIV diagnoses in 2014, according to the CDC. Next paragraph. But the drug isn't just for men. And then they start talking just constantly about how it's a woman issue. Look, we gotta get this out to women. Well, I agree. But if 83% of the diagnoses are men, and not just men, but men who have sex with men, so there's an additional percentage of men who have sex with women. Actually, it's an underwhelmingly small amount that belong to women. But this whole article is talking about just look at it. Like, no, come on, dude. We get it. Just give it to everyone. Well, what's the article about? Why is the headline? Let's stop, HIV spreading in African American women. Let's just stop HIV. Can we do that? Is that all right? Can we do that, Sam?
Yeah. Can we stop gendering fucking AIDS?
No, but isn't that just a weird thing, dude? Like, probably if you add on the men that get it from having sex with women, all right, even if it's not 90%, if it's like 88%, but it's tiny percentage, and then yes, 2/3 of that percentage are black women in the US, But it's clearly just put it out. I don't care about the groups. I don't, give it to the most risk group, sure, before the least risk group. But if you can, just give it to everybody who even is vaguely at risk. Let's just get rid of this. Like, why make it? They're quoting the president of the Black Woman's Health Imperative. The CDC. That's way more important. Black Woman's Health Imperative. Like, come on. This is all about... look at the quote. This is all about empowering women, especially black women, by giving them sexual health options. What about the dead dudes?
What about Freddie Mercury?
Long dead. What about the dead dudes? Why do we have to divide this up? Why do we have to do dividing and conquering fucking healthcare? Can we not? Can we fucking not? And I just read that and I was thinking, and again, maybe I'm mentally ill, Sam. But the reason I put this on the show is I just read that and I just thought, like, you've got a political agenda when you're talking about AIDS medication. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Just give it to everybody. It's going to be all right. Let's just get rid of AIDS. I get it. Black women get it. Gay guys get it. White guys get it. Asian women get it. Who gives a fuck? If you've got it sucks. If you never had to worry about getting it, the world would be a better place. Let's do that. And then this, mate. This blew my fucking mind. I know you saw this. Ryan Gosling.
There he is.
Ryan Gosling. What happened to you? What happened to you? So, the Golden Globes, it's an award ceremony where you win things for things you did. And fair summary, right? And Ryan Gosling did something that was good and won an award. And when you win an award, you get up on stage and you deliver a speech. And you say, thanks to people who helped you get there, or you give an inspirational message because you want to use the platform. So Ryan Gosling talked about his wife, his missus. And what he specifically said was that the lady in his life... Oh, actually, I should quote. Are they married?
Who knows? I'll check. No.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Not married. His life partner, then. But certainly, the woman in his life. And he said that. He said the lady in his life is the exact quote he used. Talking about Eva Mendes. And he said that while he was out doing what he did, she was at home and she looked after kids and whatever it was. So he could go out and do this particular role for the film La La Land, for which he received this award. And in the speech, well, hang on. Fuck it. Just play it.
3, 2, 1.
Yep. 3 to 1 minutes. 40,
Right.
41
3, 2, 1, go.
You don't get to be up here without standing on the shoulders of a mountain of people, and there's just no time to thank everyone. I just would like to try and thank one person properly and say that while I was singing and dancing and playing piano and having one of the best experiences I've ever had on a film, my lady was raising our daughter, pregnant with our second, and trying to help her brother fight his battle with cancer. If she hadn't have taken all that on so that I could have this experience, it would surely be someone else up here other than me today. So, sweetheart, thank you.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I saw women nodding in the audience. He's thanking his significant other for, enabling him to go out and get this job, which is what a lot of women do the world over, right? It's what, I mean, it's not just gender-based. Certainly, if we talk about traditional segregated gender roles, then yeah, this is what women have done for a huge part of human history. They are the primary caregivers to children. They are the homemakers, and they've enabled men to go out and work, and sometimes in the creative professions like this, go out and do things they wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. And he's thanking her for that. And again, the quote, you raised our daughter, you were pregnant with our second, and you also helped her brother fight cancer. I mean, this is...
It's quite the woman.
Yeah, this is a Herculean effort from a woman. So to thank her and say he owes it to her, I think that's quite an accolade. The Independent, Narjas Zatat, says Ryan Gosling's Golden Globe speech about Eva Mendes wasn't cute, it was sexist. Why was it sexist? So let's have a look. Because I was confused. Because I thought saying I owe it all to the woman would be not sexist. Right? But she's got it all figured out, this writer, as to why it is. And she makes a really compelling argument, Sam. It's going to win you over. Be ready. Gosling's appreciation for his partner may be genuine, but it plays into structural inequality that women face in the workplace, least of all Hollywood. Yes, Mendes has agency, and the decision to put her career on the back burner for the sake of her husband's was hers, But why did she have to make that decision to begin with?
She didn't have to.
Yeah, all right, but I've got a bunch of statistics unrelated to this shit, so I want to use them.
All right, cool.
That's what this writer was thinking. In 1,206 films, 60 to 90% of the dialogue is delivered by men. And in an additional 307 films, that figure shot up to 90%. More damning, a pathetic 7% of Hollywood directors are women. It would seem that male directors are hiring male actors for male roles, meaning Mendes doesn't have the same amount of opportunities as her husband. Now, I think what happened here is, I think I'm going to assume Miss Zatat, I think she got a little bit confused by what she was writing here, because this was meant to be a reaction to the speech, I guess, is what she was briefed with, because it was the standout moment from the Golden Globes. What she's written here is an article about equality of opportunity in Hollywood. The two aren't linked. I'd have thought somebody would have pointed that out. They didn't. She goes to the Pew Research Center. And then, just to bring something else in, again, Samuel, tell me if you spot a pattern here. According to data from the Pew Research Center, the number of stay-at-home mothers in the USA has been steadily rising for the past 15 years. Still haven't seen anything as to why Ryan Gosling's speech is sexist, by the way. Waiting for that. That's the title. You know, that's the little juicy headline you've used to get us to fucking click. When do we get to that bit? When do we get to the bit where Ryan Gosling's rampant fucking sexist? I'm looking forward to that, you know. Now she doesn't end there. If you think she's been pretty fucking vague, it gets better. What's more, there's often an assumption within relationships that the woman will just stay at home to look after children. So now she's given up on even using statistics. There's often, I mean,
I reckon.
Yeah. What's more, I think.
That's not more. That's less. What's less?
Yeah. What's more, there's often an assumption within relationships that the woman will stay at home and look after children, sick, or in other cases, aging relatives. Right. No, right. Nobody.
Isn't the opposite true? Actually, I've heard of aging relatives. Like especially in like Eastern Europe, right? There's a huge culture that the son always has to look after the family.
Oh, dude, you can't bring anything up outside of this little
okay.
Western narcissism, you know. Well, which is interesting because actually, with a name like Naja Zartat, I'm guessing. I would like to know actually what her background is, because I obviously I can't make any assumptions just based on a name, but certainly there are many cultures that the idea of Japan, for example, South Korea is another one that I know of and have experienced firsthand. The idea of not looking after aging relatives, be you male or female, is an anathema. It's sons and daughters do this. This isn't something that women are just better at. Ryan Gosling didn't say that. Did Ryan Gosling say that? Did he say anywhere in that speech? Just as well that fucking Mendes cunt did it, because she's way better at it than me. I'm a fucking baller. I'm out there doing what I do. I star in all them movies, stamping on people's heads and driving that. Like, I can't be looking after a fucking someone with cancer and a fucking. I can't do that.
I'm wiping no fucking ass, mate.
Yeah. Wipe
the film.
Wipe a kid's ass. You're mental, aren't you? I've got to fucking kick people to death in an elevator. Are you out your fucking god? Are you mentally ill? He didn't say that.
Should have.
Didn't happen. Would have been a wicked speech. We done.
You out your fucking grill.
So here's the thing. I nearly didn't get this job because, right, I've got kids and that. My missus is up the stick with another one.
And her brother's dying, like.
Her brother's proper, like, he's just, yeah.
He's
out.
like, he's fully bred.
Yeah.
Imagine Bill Clinton in a year, but.
So I've got all that going on in my life. So I said to her, I said, listen, darling, what is this? This is a fucking bummer. This is like, I got to go do fucking La La Land. You're living in La La Land if you think I'm staying at home to deal with this shite. So anyway, I had a couple of cans of Spesh, went into the fucking studio, knocked it out the park, and now I got this award. Thank me.
Just fucking Crip walks off.
Now, here's the thing. If he'd done that, right, this article makes sense in a way. As that is the most outlandish thing that could have ever have happened in the history of Hollywood, and therefore didn't happen, this article's nonsense. Because he didn't say, again, this isn't something that women are just better at, and we're angels. Again, words Ryan Gosling didn't use.
In quotes, though, but.
Yeah.
Not a quote them all. Just quote those.
Be selfless. And more often than not, feel an obligation to do so. So hang on.
Yeah.
What are you saying? You saying the stereotype's true or it ain't?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm scared. I don't know what's happening.
Scared. It is something that is expected of women, and valorizing it perpetuates this is an ideal that women have to live up to. So what Ryan Gosling did, right, by basically saying thanks to a strong woman that did all of this stuff, is valorize it. And therefore, as he valorized it, right, he was being sexist. Get this. Earlier in the year, he told the Evening Standard that women are better and stronger than men.
How dare he?
Sexist pig. Putting women on a moral pedestal in this way excuses men from transgressions such as not coming home. What's going on in your life, darling? Narjaz.
Who hurt you?
Can I call you Narjaz? Come on, what happened? Shall I put the kettle on?
You want a knob? Sorry, didn't mean to say knob.
From not coming home, what Ryan Gosling did. That's not why he's not coming home, you fucking shrew. Get a fucking grip of your fucking mind. Gosling's speech runs uncomfortably close to the old adage, behind every great man is a great woman. She's not behind you. She's standing right next to you. Maybe you should tell the audience next time that you'll be home to help out more. He couldn't, he was making a film! That's the point, he's making a film! He's making a film! He can't be home. If he could have been home, he couldn't make the film. That's the point of the film. He was making the film. What do you want? I should have been, all right, sorry, director and everyone else and all the fucking hundreds of people involved in the making of this film. It's over, it's done. I gotta go home because, fucking, I'm worried. Eva's not said it.
Yeah, she hasn't played at all.
She's not freaking out. She's got loads going on, but still isn't freaking out. But there's some journalist, right, called fucking Narjaz Zatit or whatever, right? I gotta fucking do one, right, because I need to go just in case Eva Mendes is having a tough time, because we've got to be stood next to each other. All your jobs don't matter. All your life doesn't matter. This piece of art doesn't matter because this journalist might write this pithy little column citing statistics not relevant to something I might say 9 months from now. So I got to go. I'm really sorry about all of that. I'm real sorry to all the women, actually, whose jobs have now been compromised because I have to leave, right? So, but I really should leave because, quote, my wife isn't behind me. She's right next to me, and I'm here, so she ain't right next to me, and I've got to be home to help out more.
I like Ryan Gosling's from the north now. Big fan of that.
Big
Films
fan.
would be better.
Would be, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't have seen that one in Notebook. What do you want? What the fuck do you want?
Mentally ill, isn't it? It's just mentally ill. Just shows as well. It's like, what? I'd bet fucking dollars to fucking donuts she's single. I know that sounds like so. Well, if you made good points and then you went chauvinistic at the end. hear me out. I don't think she's in a fucking relationship. I don't think she knows how relationships work. Forget gender fucking roles. Right. Let's say, all right, name an actress that I might want to be with.
Mila Kunis.
She's pretty cool. She can do better than me, though. She's with Justin Timberlake, isn't she?
I think so.
I don't measure up, do I?
What actress am I gonna pick, mate?
I know.
Judy Golding.
Amy Schumer. She's
There you
fucking
go.
tagging. Like, right, so anyway, Amy Schumer.
Leslie Jones. What's wrong with Les, dog?
No, but the pictures, man.
Have a spread.
Pictures, they hurt me. Right. Okay, look, let's just do it the first time. Mila Kunis, right? Let's say she's fallen on hard times. You know, my personality's just so and she thinks, fuck it, doesn't matter. I'll just get him a personal trainer and be living the dream. So me and Mila, right? Now, she's way more famous than me, right? And therefore is going to have way more fucking opportunity in that than me, right? And she comes to me and she goes, Rich, listen, you know that YouTube channel with 86,000 followers you got? That is your sole income in this relationship. Right? Yeah. Well, you know, I need you to just take a break from it and that and look after our kids. Because we've had a kid. Because obviously, you know, knock her up.
Why would she be breeding with you, mate?
I don't know.
Why would she mix that DNA?
You look after our kid, Sam.
Our kid.
Yeah, our kid. War kid. So look after War kid. Right? And I go, oh, so I can't do the YouTube. She goes, nah, you won't have time. You got to look after the kid. But this film's going to be fucking award nominated, tons of scratch. And then after that, we can reassess where we're all at. And, you know, maybe you can go back to making YouTube or maybe you do a film. Right? But it's going to take a while. It'll be a year, 2 years or something. Because I've got to train up to do a bunch of stuff. It's a Kung Fu movie. I've got to learn Kung Fu. It's going to be 2 years. And I go, well, I fucking love that YouTube channel, right? But there's nothing I love more than being nuts deep in you, Mila. So...
Yeah, so I'm in.
So I'm all in on this. Like, fuck the YouTube. If I fucking, I'll announce it on Twitter. I'll go on me Twitter.
I'm out.
I can't do YouTube for a while. The missus has said no. Like, she's told me no. And she's right. Like, so I don't do it. I stay at home and I look after the kid, Sam, right? Who was born with gigantism.
I'm Prey to Willie.
A horrible combination. Gigantism with Prey to Willie. Just eating all day. Like.
Eating myself. Just eating my growths. He's eating his head again.
Stressed out to the max, right? And I'm looking after the baby, not doing it. He said, the kid Sam with Prey to Willie and gigantism, carrying this giant baby around and just keeps eating things, right? And
licking wallpaper throughout the house.
When it's full because of its brain, and I'm just carrying it around and that. And then she goes 2 years and she makes an award-winning Kung Fu movie, yeah? She makes this wicked award Kung Fu movie, and she gets up on stage and she goes, you know, it was great making The Blind Monk. It was a great movie, but, you know, I just want to say I couldn't have done it if it weren't for fucking Richie Chopper Lewis, like, at home with our giant son. Right? And his best mate Sam's got brain damage, and he's been dealing with it all. I couldn't have done it without him. So I just want to say, darling, thank you. Someone gonna deprive me of that. Right? I'm an adult. I made those choices. You know, I'll get the next one. Eva Mendes gets the next one. Ryan Gosling can stay at home with the son with gigantism now. Hang on, their son have gigantism. Whatever.
Not even born yet. You've already diagnosed with gigantism. Imagine if it does, though. Imagine the mad psychic powers, but
me and Putin living in a simulation.
If that baby comes out with Prey to Willie and gigantism, they name it Sam, but I'm out. I'm quitting. Like,
yeah, well, no, we have to. Sure, there. Like, anyway, the point is that it's out of control. This is fucking retarded. You know, we gotta fucking get a grip. When's someone gonna double down on some common sense? You know what I mean? So anyway, I think we can probably wrap it up there. It's been over 2 hours. We've done the show. We haven't even reached the inauguration. So catching up on all the mad shit that happens on planet Earth. We'll never get there, actually. It's just we're going to move further and further away, won't we?
If you stop for a second, it's beyond catching up. It's like a 24/7 fucking TV series. You can never catch up.
So, I think we'll wrap it up there. Any final thoughts, brother?
Rest in peace, Easy. I wish the AIDS medication came early.
I know, man. Imagine if I had to. Don't die of fucking hip-hop. Boom. Right? Anyway, that was the Richard Lewis Show with Sam. We'll be back soon. We're going to bang out as many of these as possible because we've got a nice little holiday. Hope you enjoyed listening to it. Stay away from Russian hackers.
Wait, before we go, one last plug.
Oh, shit, nearly forgot. Yeah, so stay away from Russian hackers. Stay away from golden showers. Don't look after kids with gigantism and pray away.
Because it's hard, like. And make sure you got any food in your house if you are.
It's hard. And sorry to Mila Kunis. But obviously, definitely, 100%, go out and buy a copy of this is the great book by Andrew Bouchard, Mr. Free Speech Stud Bangs Miss Anita Sarkeesian, which is available by going to rlewisreports.com/stud. And you will find out who that famous YouTuber they have a menage a trois with actually is. So there you go. That was a Richard Lewis Show. See you on the next episode. Bye.